Hi everyone, happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining me for another day, another week. I'm really happy about how long we've been. Okay, so for a lot of Twitch streamers, they're probably like, how long? What do you mean, how long? It's like, it hasn't been that long. For me, I feel like it's, I'm bad at habits, so I'm just really happy. To be able to keep something up for like weeks. As in, I think I don't know why, but as a kid, I like really rejected schedules. Like, I remember in elementary school, um, we were told by our teacher to like, come up with this like daily schedule, and then like and then follow that and like wake up at a certain time. But I think that one failed because I was like 6 or 7 and they had us like break it down by the minute, like at like in like 30-minute intervals of like in at like I don't know. It was just like really detailed and I just like couldn't keep to those schedules. Like I partially grew up in Japan, so my a lot of my elementary school years were in Japan, and I guess they just have like a little bit more. I think there's like some parts of the culture that are like a little bit more rigid, and so they would be like, oh, it's like a pretty common thing actually of writing out a schedule that's like, at 7 a.m. I wake up and at 7:15 I'm going to eat breakfast, and like, at this time I'm going to go to school, and after school I'm going to get back at like 2:30 or like 3 p.m. or whatever, and then I'm going to spend 30 minutes practicing piano. Or it was like very rigid and I just like couldn't I really couldn't stick to it. Um, so I feel like because of that, I like rebelled really hard and I was like, I like schedules are like, routines don't work for me. I don't like routines. And this is like this stubbornness has like kept with me until my basically into my adult years where I never ever I thought maybe like by the time I got older I would be able to establish like a good routine. I'm like very envious of people that like have good routines where like they wake up at the same time every day and they have their morning routine of like coffee or tea, and then like um I feel like that to this day is like adulting that I aspire to. But I don't know if it's because I went into software and in software, like things are really lax. You like work when you like, I don't know, like inspiration strikes or something. So, and also I'm like very much a night person. So I've never had like I wake up at 8 a.m. every morning. It's like a general range of like between 8 and 10 a.m. on the weekdays. So, this is a very long ramble slash tangent about how I'm really not good at sticking to a routine. I've tried many times in my life, and that is why I'm just really happy that I've been able to stick to this routine and for I guess a month and a half, maybe a month. It's been like 5 or 6 weeks, I think. And I think it really is just because of like how fun it is to chat with you. Um, and it really is like something that I'm trying to be like, it is something I'm trying to like make into a habit and take really seriously. So, um, well, that was a really long tangent. Hi, Ultimatum Viz. Hello, thank you so much for joining the chat. Hi, Pranav. Thanks so much for joining the chat again. Oh my gosh. Hi, hello, near this. I always get this mixed up because I always say that you're in Australia, but I think you corrected me last time and said you were in New Zealand. But thank you so much for joining all the way from New Zealand. I have no idea what time it is for you. I hope it's not like so early. But yeah, I'm gonna try my hand at open sourcing today. I've never ever done it before, so um, I'm like I was like maybe I should prep beforehand, and then my lazy side is like nah, like don't prep beforehand, just like go in. It's gonna be like We'll figure it out together. And I have no prep. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I guess what I mean is like I've open sourced a lot of my past projects, but then for this one, I'm open sourcing because I wanted to. I'm like purposefully open sourcing with like I'm going to try and have good documentation. Like all of my past projects, I've like put on GitHub and then been like, eh, like there's no documentation whatsoever. But this one, it's pretty important to me that I have good documentation so that people can like potentially contribute data from their own countries. And then I'll describe in a bit what this project is. But hi, Thirsty Pooch. Yes, hello. You said greetings from Lima. Lima. Oh my gosh, I'm really bad at geography. I'm so sorry. It's Lima, Peru. I'm sorry. I feel like you've also joined a few times before, right? Because your handle seems very familiar to me. And Thirsty Pooch says, we love your career, Shirley. Thank you. Hello, near this 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for getting up at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Um, I swear I still feel like I am like a high school or college student, where I have a really hard time. Well, I think it's fluctuated since I've graduated, but I think in the last few months, with the shelter in place, it's been really hard for me to get up before noon on like the weekends, just because we end up staying up until like 3 or 4 a.m. Like time is like it like is just a construct that like it doesn't exist anymore. Like what is time? Hey, okay. Sorry about that. I think my internet went down really quickly. Um, Not quite sure where it went down, but thank you so much. Helena, this says welcome back. I don't quite know what I was talking about. I think maybe we were in the middle of talking about this project. I've now also lost chat history, so I'm not quite sure. But sorry about that. Thank you for coming back and joining us. Um, yeah, it's not in my usual setup right now, so the internet is sometimes shaky, but hope there's no more trouble for the rest of the hour. Pranav says we were talking about why you were deciding to open source people of the pandemic. Oh, thank you so much. The documentation of the project. Oh, you guys are so good. So yeah. I usually don't do much documentation on my projects just because they're personal projects. And I don't, so I guess let me show some of the past projects I've had. Um, so they're all like kind of just one-off projects. Certainly, I guess the example ones that I have, maybe it'd be good for me to, like some of the React or Vue example ones, it might be good to have documentation on, probably. But a lot of these projects are just like projects for myself, so I've never really documented them. But the reason why I really want to document this one is because document and also open source. Currently, it is private, but I wanted to open source it so that it's easier for people to contribute data. And actually, I've been having a lot of thoughts about open source lately, and I've been wanting to talk about it. And maybe this is a good stream to talk about it, especially since we have kind of the just chatting tag instead of our usual science and tech uh, tag. So maybe it's a good time to talk about it. So when I first started coding, I used to open source all of my projects, just because. I mean, I didn't really know much better. I feel like there's like a very strong open source culture in software. Um, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'll just like open source it, especially because I really enjoyed it when people found it helpful and gave me good feedback on them. But I'm not a very good maintainer. My personality is very much like for better or for worse, like I get really excited about a new thing and I like really kind of dash forward and try my best to finish it. And once I finish it, I really want to go on to the next thing. So I'm not the best maintainer. This is actually one of the reasons why I quit my full-time job before, because we had gone into kind of like maintenance mode for the project that I was working on, and I just didn't enjoy that as much. So yeah, so I yeah, um, but and I didn't really ever have to worry about it that much before because it's not like that many people saw my projects. Um, but I think in the more recent years, I've been thinking, especially in this past year, I've been thinking a lot more about open source and who really benefits from open source because I feel like there's been quite a few conversations about um, especially I think Henry LeftPad that helps that like maintains Babel. I just remember a lot of talks that he's given or um, and about how uh, both about the community of open source, which I think is really nice, but also kind of the unrealistic expectation on open source maintainers. Been thinking about that a lot, and that's also why I think I've been kind of really scared of open sourcing any like sort of tools because of the expectation to maintain. It's just not within my personality. And but I mean, a lot of the things I tend to like creating are kind of one-off projects anyway, so I've never really had that I've never really had that uh I guess I've never really had to like worry about having to maintain anything. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about like open source and who it benefits, and I feel like um and I feel like a lot of it I feel like really benefits corporations. Maybe this is a very skewed perspective, and this is maybe like a perspective and bias that I've developed like just like me stewing by myself and not really talking to anyone about it. But I do kind of feel like it benefits corporations more than individual developers. And but so that's one thing. And the on the other side, I feel like I think it makes a lot of sense for tools, like really helpful tools, to be open source, so that not only can more people benefit from it, but also that people can freely contribute to it. I think the contributing part is really important. Um, but again, I do feel like corporations should do more in terms of supporting the open source projects that they use a lot. It's a whole other opinion. But for the kinds of projects that I open source, I've been wondering a lot about like what the actual benefit or what yeah, if maybe not the actual benefit, but like why why should we open source? That's also not like a maybe that's also not a good way to put it, but like um yeah, like who because I feel like for me as a person that is putting code out there, um I think there have been times when I've been really happy with the response because then people would be like, "Oh, that really helped," or but also I've had a few times when, you know, just like people took the code and then maybe didn't credit it or and that's another part that I'm like not I'm not familiar enough with open source licenses. So, like, maybe it's just a matter of I should be using the right license. But yeah, so people that, you know, with good or not so good intentions, like took the code and maybe didn't credit it, or, so I've been thinking a lot about that too. And ultimately, I think what makes me the happiest is like when people see something I do and not necessarily like, um, you know, take the code itself, but kind of do something like they kind of like do a mashup off of like the concept of it. And that makes me the happiest. And in which case, I feel like maybe it's more a, you know, writing a blog post about how I did it, versus putting the code up and open, um, in its entirety. Just because I feel like the code I write is something that I like struggled with and like, thought through it a lot, and there's like a lot of intention um behind them, I guess. And just like a lot of, I don't know, maybe I just like sometimes get too attached to when I'm like really proud of what I've written. And it just kind of makes me really sad when people just kind of like, if they take it and it's nice if there was like thought applied to how they use it, but if they just kind of like take it um and just like put their own data in or something. Um, so yeah, those are things that I've been mulling over a lot. I haven't really talked it through with, I don't think I've really talked to anyone about it. So I would love to hear your opinions. Um, oh, and Alice, hi Alice, thanks for joining the chat again. Um, Alice says the sword of power. Hello Near says I totally get that. Some people will always do that, taking without credit. The good idea co says finally I get to see your stream. Ooh, thank you so much for joining our stream. Thank you for joining the chat. Yeah, so that's, yeah, I think one of the goals for this stream is like figuring out maybe like figuring out the right license when I'm open sourcing. That's been on my to-do list for a while. I would love your help if you do know of like different licenses, just because I've never, this is my bad, but I've like never really sat down to read about different licenses. Um, ooh. So, oh, hi Anna. Thank you so much for joining the chat again. The Good Idea Co says, love your stuff. Thank you so much. Motivated me to teach Vue D3. I've been obsessed. Do you mean teach others Vue D3 or teach yourself Vue D3? But either way, I'm so glad. I love that combination. I swear it's like increased my productivity so much, and it's like really opened up like a lot of possibilities in terms of what I can code and create. um but oh cool, a good idea co says taught others Vue and D3. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. Declarative rendering is so much fun. Yeah, I agree. Um, if you want to share any of the things that you've taught or anything, I would love to see that. Although today's setup is a little bit different from usual in that I might not be able to see or open your links. Um, but definitely, I would love to see any of the kind of classes you've taught, or um, maybe you can, if you send it to my Twitter, then I might be able to open it up there. Sorry, I'm at my parents' house, so like it's like a temporary setup that I haven't quite figured out. But yeah, okay, whole ramble about open source. I've just been thinking a lot in the past year about who it actually benefits, and particularly in the kind of projects I do, where it's one-off projects, and then the code is like the code is literally like the visualizations I created. Um, I'm I'm like getting a bit more cynical. I don't know. I hope not, but maybe it's that I um, just don't feel as comfortable putting just code out there anymore. So that's also why I put out this People of the Pandemic project out back in April and May, I think. And it's taken me this long to kind of come to terms with like, okay, I think I'm ready to open source it. And I just feel I don't know how to describe it, but I just feel like, there are times like, the code I write is like this thing where it's like I've labored over it for like hours sometimes, like trying to figure out how to do it. Um, and then, yeah, it just makes me really sad and also kind of mad when people just take it. But yeah, maybe it's just there will always be people like that, and maybe I just need to come to terms with that and just like look at the bright side of it. I'm certainly hoping that like having a good license will help. Um, but Pooh Bidet Pooh Bidet says I love this afternoon streaming time. Yeah, actually, I'm glad to hear that. I've been trying to decide if I want to keep the afternoon streams or if I want to move it to the morning. So I'm glad there is some like favor of that. Um, good idea, Ko says just having you check out my stuff is cool enough. I'll send. um, I'll do my best. Hero Proto says, so what do you use for drawing SVGs, pen and paper, or randomly work out the points using brute force? When I first started, I would like write it out on pen and paper, and then I would just draw it out. Kind of how if you had a chance to join the workshops I did for Front and Masters last week, um I taught it such that we did it on pen and paper and then like write out kind of like where approximately the coordinates are on pen and on paper, and then translate it onto this like and then implement it in SVG, and then sometimes like I'll like tweak it. That's how I used to do it at the very beginning. These days, if it's like a simpler shape, I end up just like going straight into SVG. But I also kind of have gotten um I guess more willing and better with Illustrator, and sometimes I'll. Ooh, one of the things I did last time around, I did this project, a really quick project for ITP. It's New York University's like master's program for art and technology. I did a artist fellowship with them last year, and I did this one, which is I think. Uh, Basically it's all of their yearbook photos, and so I think you can like type in, yeah, and then so there will be this kind of like flame, because I think it's very similar to the NYU logo, and so for this particular shape what I did was I drew it out and on my iPad using I can't remember the app name off the top of my head right now, but I drew it out on my iPad first, then I ported it into, I think, Illustrator to clean it up. And then finally, I just like ported it into SVG. So this was one of the times when I didn't hand code it. I did it through Illustrator, which honestly was so much easier. So I'm like really like I've been trying to get better at not using code for everything. So um, yeah, and Pranav says this is a really cool site for deciding what kind of license you need. Ooh, thank you so much. Choosealicense.com. Good idea. Code says, okay, here's some links. There's a code sandbox for parallel coordinates. Oh my gosh, force graph with WebGL. That sounds really cool. Um, and Good idea. Co has also sent over some talks that I'll um, no worries. This way other people in the chat can check it out also. But definitely, um, I'll definitely check out the links later. But if you kind of send it to me via Twitter, then it'd be like I'd be able to check it out easier. Poopa Day says, I like the Muesli extension too. Good inspiration. Yes, definitely. Um, okay. Ooh. Oh yeah, this is really nice. So protects contributors and users. Yeah, maybe this is what I need. And then maybe I was just like thinking in circles about open source. Because I do really enjoy it when people can see my code and that improves their project, and then they share that project with me. So I need to work in a community, use the license preferred by the community you're contributing to or depending on. Oh, if I have a dependency, so I don't think, I see. So I don't think it, that one applies to me as much. I want it simple and permissive. MIT license is short and to the point. It lets people do almost anything they want with your project, like making and distributing closed source versions. So not 100% sure how closed source versions are defined. I wonder if that means like within a company or so not quite sure. I care about sharing and improvements. Lets people do almost anything they want with your project except distributing closed source versions. I should figure out what closed source versions mean. My project isn't software. It is. I want more choices. More licenses are available. Here's what happens if you don't choose a license. The work is under exclusive copyright by default unless you include a license that specifies otherwise. Nobody else can copy. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, so right now I don't think I really put a license on any of my projects. So let's say, yeah, I don't think I have a, let's see, do I have, no, I don't think I have license. So even this one, I don't think I have a license specified to it. So, because to my understanding, when I create something on GitHub, I don't think I should have, I don't think it automatically specify a license for me. So actually, even in the absence of a license file, you may grant some rights in case where you publish your source code to a site requires accepting terms of service. If you publish your source code in a public repository on GitHub, you allow others to view and fork your repository. Others may not need your permission if limitations and exceptions to copyright apply to their particular situation. Neither site terms nor jurisdiction-specific copyright limitations are sufficient for the kinds of collaboration that people usually seek on a public code host. What? Such as experimentation, modification, and sharing. However, wish to add a copyright notice and statement that you are not offering any license in a prominent place so that users don't assume you made an oversight. If you are going to accept others' contribution to your non-licensed project, you may wish to explore adding a contributor agreement to your project with your lawyer so that you maintain copyright permission from contributors, even though you're not granting the same. I feel like this is already making like legal stuff. I feel like this is already explaining it in a much easier to understand way, but yet I'm still so confused. Okay. Disallowing use of your code might not be what you intend by no license. Allows open source license allows reuse of your code while retaining copyright. Okay, I think that's really what I want. And I think it really is just that I never really fully understood licenses. Essentially, like I just don't want people to like copy and paste it into their project. Like I want people to be able to like access it, read it, like remix it. I just don't want it to be like a blatant copy and paste into their own project. So Hero Proto says, it feels like cheating to use GUI though. Haha, good to know. I'm not the only one who thinks GUI is easier to draw things, Shirley. Yeah, so I feel like that's one of the like kind of counterproductive things about coding or being a software engineer that I've like spent years trying to reverse, which is like I feel like we have like a weird culture of pride around like we must do everything with code. And certainly I still suffer from that sometimes, but sometimes like code is not the most efficient answer. And I've been like retraining myself to be like, no, it's okay to use a GUI. Like it's okay not to use code for everything. Yeah, weird culture of pride. And we're just like, code is a tool, the hammer for everything. And Good idea. Co says, seriously, thank you for everything you've contributed over the years. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad. Um, you've motivated me quite a bit. That I've been thinking maybe like I should like put together just like a secret document of like just nice things that people have sent to me, like on my desktop or something. Because sometimes like I just get like bogged down and like I'm like, oh, things suck. But then like really nice people will send me really nice messages, and it's just like, so yeah, I feel like sometimes that I should put together just like a document uh from people that are like, thank you for making this thing. Although honestly, I made them just for myself, and I made them like just purely for fun. And sometimes it was like, um, yeah, it's just like purely out of self-interest. So it's really amazing to me that people find it helpful. So I'm really glad. Um, uh, a penis says sue every fork. Um, Hero Proto says there's also a WTF license. WTF license. It's a very permissive license for software and other scientific do what the fuck you want to public license. Um, it's a very permissive license for software and other scientific or artistic works that offers a great degree of freedom. See, I don't even know like GPL, BSD, about which license the type is the most free of the two. Both license types have unacceptable, obnoxious clauses, such as reproducing a huge disclaimer that is written in all caps that severely restrain our freedoms. Um, uh, okay. Let's see. Pranav says when you create a new repo, they ask if you want to create a license for the repo before you create it. Yeah, I wonder if that's a new thing because I don't think I've always seen that one, but recently I've noticed it and I think I haven't been checking it because I'm always like, oh, I'm too lazy I'll like figure out the licenses later and I never do. So this is my like using the stream as an excuse to figure out the license. And then actually we were supposed to, um, I had it in the to do that we would write the documentation for how to contribute data together in the stream, and also there's a PR that I need to review. So I was thinking about doing that together, but actually that might actually we might actually have another stream of this, and hopefully it's a yeah, hopefully you like this kind of stream. Um, that so that I'll do more of it. And then I think next week, I was planning to go back to Crazy Rich Agents for one of the streams, but then I also wanted to do a little bit more of this open source work, as well as continue the data dive that we did on Wednesday with the USPS collection boxes. I really want to do more work on that one too. Um, and Helen this says the non-commercial use is big for me. Yes. Um, non-commercial work definitely very big. The thing that I've been on the fence with is like, there was one time, I've had an example where I think it was a class project, and so the students kind of it was a completely different data set, which is really cool. But they completely kind of just took my code for a project, and then they kind of like put a new data set through it. And I feel like on one hand, like I'm like always more lenient with students because and I especially the reason one of the reasons why I do like one of the pros for me for open source is like for students, um But at the same time, I feel like like it's not contributing to learning as much if they just copy and paste the code. So that's one of those, like, I'm really on the fence about how I feel of, on one hand, I feel like they did do a really great job of picking an interesting data set, explaining it, and mapping the data to the visuals. But if it's like the exact same code that they took from my, like, they took my code, like, how do I feel about that? I'm not sure. Like, I just, like, it's not like I'm being like, I, yeah, I think, at the very least, I asked for credit on the project that, like, the code came from my repo, at the very least. Um, but maybe I'm like one of those, like, old-fashioned, like, oh, you learn by doing, so you should have coded it yourself. Though I also understand for final projects, maybe they ran out of time or something. So again, on the fence, and that's why I'm like, I'm not sure if it's only non-commercial. Yeah, I don't know. Um, let's see. Uh, Good idea co says, I agree, you should. What's that saying? Boston mentioned it in the keynote. I'll have to find it. Something where it's absolute chaos until the moment it's not. I'm sorry. I think I'm kind of behind on the chat, so now I've already forgotten what we were talking about there. Bidet says, haha, like emergencycompliment.com, but personalized for real. Yeah, you just need to, like, be able to go in and, like, look at nice things that people have said about me so that I can feel better about myself. Actually makes me, like, sound really sad. um Hello, Nirda says, art is often like that in that you're making it for your own fun. Anna says, you are definitely an, oh, thank you, Anna. You are definitely an inspiration to a young woman in tech, Shirley. Great idea, cuz says, my child is screaming in the other room. Time to go be a dad. Awesome seeing you stream. Hopefully you do this more often. Yeah, so I do it every Wednesday and Friday. And then I have, like, at this time, 2 p.m. PST. And I also impromptu do it sometimes on other days at this time. So yeah, I guess if you have whatever notification Twitch has on, then you'll be able to get an email and hopefully join again. Thank you so much for joining today. Pranav says the professor should have had a better cheating software tool to catch code that wasn't cited. Oh, the professor was really great about it. He was like, that was my mistake, and that like they should have had he was basically like, please don't blame the students about this. It was a kind of I guess, like, more of a like a mistake on like they should have had more of a conversation about this. So I guess this also goes more into kind of like, yeah, the art, I guess, because they're, copyright is such a big problem in art, and licenses, and I know that, like, independent artists struggle with this a lot, where they have to, like, spend way too much of their energy asking, like, different websites to, like, take it down. Like, I don't think I like, definitely don't even see the most egregious things, because, like, I know that some artists have to deal with, like, people putting their art on, like, those websites that print t-shirts or mugs or whatever and make money off of that. That to me is infuriating. um but definitely, I think, thankfully, all of the um most of the cases I've had, I think, were just, like, with good intentions, and like, good intentions as in, like, I don't think they were, like, trying to do any harm or, like, profit off of it. I think they just were like, like, oh cool, like, I can use this code for my project, kind of thing. And Hero Proto says, I'm actually glad that the database community is so open, especially observable for people like me who come from a more data finance background and the design knowledge is shallow. Yes, I definitely agree. So that's why I feel like maybe what I've been trying to think through, maybe it's an unpopular opinion about how I feel about open source. Although I think the distinction that kind of the conclusion I've come to my mind is like I'm happy to do like observable notebooks or small example snippets of like something maybe like I had a breakthrough in a piece of code I was writing and like I wanted to share that like I think I should like put a disclaimer saying that like I'm not against putting out any code of my own. I think it's like I'm happy to still kind of like put out code samples. But I think I'm now feeling very wary about putting out like a whole project's worth of code. Um, yeah, I think that's what I've become wary of. So let me try and see if there are licenses that be good for what I'm trying to look for. For users, if you find software that doesn't have a license, that generally means you have no permission from the creators of the software to use, modify, or share the software. Although code hosts such as GitHub may allow you to view and fork the code, this does not imply that you are permitted to use, modify, or share the software for any purpose. That's really good to know. So strong lack of a license is probably an oversight. If the software is hosted on a site like GitHub, open an issue requesting a license and include a link to the site. Okay, so I think I'm gonna try and look at. I care about sharing improvements. Permissions of this strong copyleft license are conditioned on making available complete source code of licensed works and modifications, which include larger works using a licensed work under the same license. Eh? So this allows for commercial use. Maybe I can do one of those like more licensors are. Ooh, okay. So I feel like I don't necessarily want to do like commercial use or anything. And so distribution. Wonder what it means, distribution. I feel like I'm fine with modification. Yeah, definitely okay with private use. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna see what closed source, that's what it said. Closed source versions, yeah. How they define that. So I guess I mean closed source software for which software's publisher or another person retains intellectual property rights, usually copyright of the source code, but sometimes patent rights. Yeah, I feel like I want non-commercial use because it's not like mine is it's not like mine's like Babel or, yeah, so I think non-commercial use would be nice. So maybe this is the one that I want, JRLAFPL. So maybe I'll take a look at JRL. Let me see, more licenses are available. This is really nice. Thank you so much for sharing it, Pranav. Pranav says code samples like blocks software precursor to observable are really useful. Yeah, I think so too. I also think that like when I would just put a whole project out there, it's probably hard for people to navigate it because like they might not know where everything is, and I like don't document where everything is. So I think code samples are probably the most helpful. Anna says, I don't know, for me as a college student, it doesn't feel right to just copy code. I want to be able to understand how it works and use that knowledge to write something myself. I really respect that. I really agree with that. I do also very much think in that way that like you might I think as I think as a like someone that studied computer science, like that was something that I strongly believed in as a student as well, that like if I just copy and paste then I won't be able to learn how it works. um but it might just be that those students weren't actually computer science students, and maybe they were data science students, and maybe how the code works wasn't as much of a priority as like putting like visualizing the data in an interesting way. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna stop trying to like reason their intentions. I only wanted to bring it up as an example of a time when it was a non-commercial use, but I felt kind of iffy about. Um, and telling you this says time for an observable notebook where you tick the things you want and don't want, and it shows you the best license. Do you want to do you want to make that for us? Here, Proto says, I think in the context of open source licenses, closed source means that you don't release the code of something built with or on top of original idea. Okay, that's really, really great to know. And so I guess in that sense, it is, I guess both of these are fine. And RMM 5260 says, I am also Asian girl and I love, uh, okay, maybe we can kind of, if I have any moderators in the chat, there is a kind of an irrelevant message that maybe you can help me with. Hello, near this says the Creative Commons site has a chosen license. Oh, choose a license. Ooh, cool. Thank you. creativecommons.org/choose. So I'm also gonna take a look at the unlicensed. Oh, Boost Software MIT license. Interesting. They don't have the JRL and AFPL. Thank you so much to my mods. And JRL AFPL. Then it seems like I don't have. Ooh, Nerdy Curious. Thank you so much for hosting my stream. Welcome in. We are looking at very exciting. We are looking at open source licenses. Okay, so yeah, it seems like this particular website doesn't have this JRL AFPL listed. Java research license. Interesting. Huh. What is this AFPL? AFPL is Aladdin free public license. Huh. Okay, let me look at this Creative Commons. Choose a license. Ooh, this is exactly what you described, Hello, near this. It's like, it seems like a like choose your own adventure kind of. Let's see. I'm testing a new version of the license chooser. Please consider using the chooser beta and leave us feedback on how we can improve. Select your license. No, I need help selecting a license. Do you want attribution for your work? I would like proper attribution. I guess that sounds nice. This license requires that you reuse this, give credit to the creator. Oh, this is a like a general Creative Commons, huh? So I wonder how this applies to software, because I don't ever see this in software. Like we don't use Creative Commons licenses in software, so I wonder. Next step, allow others to use your work commercially. Nope, because all of my projects are one-off visualizations. I'd rather not have people make money off of them, because I want to make money off of them, let's be real. Do you want to allow others to remix, adapt, or build upon your work? Yes, that sounds great. Do you want to allow others to share adaptations under any terms? Others can share adaptations of my must license adaptations of my work. Oh, okay, so I think that means if I say no, then they must license and thus I guess pay me for adaptation of my work under. I don't think I need that. Others can share adaptations of my work under any terms. I think that's fine. I think I'm okay with people sharing adaptations as long as it's not the exact same thing. And I guess I can say my name and my website. I guess I don't need this. Ooh, cool. Nerdy Curious says, heck yeah, open source. Open source licenses. Anna says, Shirley, choose a license.com/appendix has all of them. Cool. Let's see. Appendix. Thank you for the heads up. Hero Proto says, this point is about if I can change licenses. Ruja, oh my gosh, hi Nicholas. Thank you so much for joining the chat. Nicholas has really cool work. Is it C84? Do I still remember it? .net? Nope, that is definitely, I'm sorry, that's definitely not your portfolio website. Nicholas Rougeau has such cool, C82! Nicholas, I was so close! I remember C84.net, but it was C82.net. Highly recommend checking out Nicholas's work. It's very beautiful. Oh, this was so cool. One of my, I think one of my favorite is still this off the staff. So Nicholas's work is very much like data-driven art. And this one is, let me see if I can, ooh, yeah. So, ooh. Oh no, wait, I don't think, if I play this, will I get like copyright? Will I, oh wait, no, you have it on YouTube, so I guess it's okay. Oh, cool. Nicholas, I still love this project so much. Yeah. I also really love your, oh, I wonder, is it in your archives? So I'm gonna show, I still really like the, literary constellations. I really love this one too. So, oh, it's so beautiful. And then this one, I don't think I checked this out in detail, but this one was amazing also. It's like the book, The Elements of Euclid. Yeah, with colored diagrams and symbols. Oh, so beautiful. Yeah. Nicholas's work is also a lot of inspiration for me. And then I know that one of your recent ones, yes, you, I remember a Data Stories podcast on this project you did, illustrations of natural orders of plants, and you went and it was this book, right? And then you recreated everything in Illustrator, was it? So that you could kind of make these. Yeah, so this is the original, and then I think this is the original image, and Nicholas recreated it in Illustrator. And I remember the so that you can kind of do so good. Okay, I'm gonna stop before I get like way too distracted. So that you can make those illustrations interactive. Okay, I'm gonna stop. It's too good. Okay, I'm stopping now. Anyways, Nicholas says CC by uh, CCBYSA 4.0 is interesting because while it allows for others to use your work, even commercially, it requires credit and that they release the project under the same license. I've been using that for most of my projects. So it seems like I have something very similar, but I have CCBYNC. So I guess the NC part is non-commercial. And I guess the question I have for you, Nicholas, then is like what the reason for allowing the commercial part. So I might do this. I might try and figure out how to use this in my GitHub. Um, and I guess like I wonder if it's just a matter of at the very bottom of the README, just like writing, putting this text in. I wonder. I need to figure that out also. Um, Helen Yoda says they share work with the same rules that you have shared the code, so they can't change it to commercial rules. Um, see, Cautious Hopeful says, I'm not sure if I missed this in the discussion, but how does the client or pricing play into this if it's a client project? Oh, so I never release client projects unless they say that it's okay to, or that they explicitly ask for it to be open sourced. But by default, I keep all client projects private. Um, yeah, just uh, out of respect for the client. Um, Anna says, "Wow, that's really cool." Yes, indeed. Anna, and then Nicholas says, "Thanks. Didn't mean to plug myself. My stuff. Saw you were talking about licensing, so I figured I would chime in. Very, very glad that you chimed in. Thank you, Nicholas. Um, you definitely weren't plugging yourself. I just got really excited to show your work. Cautious Hopeful says, Rujo, glad you accidentally did. So inspiring. I agree. Helen Yerda says, very nice. Nicholas says, I allowed the commercial part partly because on early project I had the same license and I continue to use it, but I also like the idea of letting others continue to build on my stuff because I built on public domain work to begin with, kind of like paying it forward. Oh, I really like that thought. So I'll think about that part more. About the commercial versus non-commercial. Um, I really like that way of thinking. So I want to say thank you to everyone for joining and helping me choose a license. What an exciting stream we had. So we're going to, oh, you know what? How about before we end, I'm going to talk about, let me talk a little bit about the project. I was thinking of open sourcing and the reason why I wanted to open source it to um, because I'm hoping for help with the data. So this is a project I put out back in April and May, and it is called People of the Pandemic. And the tagline is a hyper-local cooperative simulation game. And so the idea of it is that you can kind of it is cooperative because with the way the pandemic is with a pandemic, it really is kind of like a community-wide effort. So that's why there is the concept of a team. And then you can choose, you can enter in your own zip code or just choose a community size. And then it pulls in hospital data and demographic data from your zip code. And then at the end of every week, you can make a decision and enter in how many times a week you might have gone out. Um, and depending on your answer as well as the answer of everyone else in the team, it will change kind of the number of cases and thus kind of how quickly the hospital capacity is filled. Um, and so the idea behind this game was to try and ground something that has so many numbers. Like every day there were so many numbers at the state level, at the country level, and I wanted to try and find a way to ground the numbers in a um, much more kind of personalized and um, easier to grok way. Um, so that was the motivation behind this project. Um, I'm not quite sure how to go forward with it as of right now. If I should be like, I don't know, promoting it more, just because there's been a lot of upticks in the US with cases again. But I was hoping to open source this project so that as of right now, we only have data for US zip codes and French zip codes actually. And I have had a few messages saying that like that people wanted to help with like different countries' data. And so I was hoping to make the process easier by open sourcing the code and and making it easier to contribute to the data. So maybe I need to check my schedule again, but I think maybe next Monday we can do kind of like an impromptu stream to finish up the finish up kind of the open sourcing of this and finish up writing some documentation about where the data should go and how it should be formatted, as well as by then I'll have figured out the license I want to include, and I'm guessing I just need to put it at the bottom of my README. I also have an open PR that I need to review that helps with the documentation for open sourcing. So that is tentatively maybe what we can do on Monday. I do need to double check my calendar to make sure that 2 p.m. PST Monday is a time I can do. And then once I have it figured out, I will tweet it probably the morning of, and then we can do the rest of this open sourcing together. This is really my first time trying to do something like this, so I'm just really grateful that you tuned in and helped with the process. And then by Monday, hopefully end of the stream, we'll have it open sourced, and then that way, if there's any interest at all of getting the data ready for any other country, or even there's like localization for translating this project to other languages, then it will be a much easier to do that process. And hopefully also less of a time overhead for me too, because the way that it was, I had to kind of the way that it is currently with it private, I have to like do a lot of the testing to make sure that the data is working properly. But once we open source it, then presumably whoever is making the PR can also test it before. This is how unknowledgeable about the open source like process I am, because I'm like pretty certain that like whoever makes the PR should also have tested it, right? Although I don't have any testing, like any tests written, because this was literally written in like 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, so there is no tests written. Anyways, by end of Monday, hopefully, tentatively Monday, hopefully we will have this open sourced. Jay Moore says, copyright law is my jam. Um, Nicholas says, I haven't had anyone outright copy my work too much yet, but the requirements to release it under the same license can be seen as a good self-deterrent since not many people are willing to do the same. Um, and Anna says, oh wow, that looks so awesome. Did you build that entire project yourself? Oh no, so this one was a really great experience because I got to collaborate with a few different people. And it was special to me because it was the first time I had reached out to and collaborated with multiple people. So I worked with Stephen Osterman, who is a data scientist, and he has a master's in public health, spatial. I think it was like spatial analytics in public health. So then he did all of the um, uh, model building. And so we have a really, really intensive methodology that he wrote if you're interested. And I worked with um, a, a part of the egghead team. So there was a few people I got to work with there, and they supported me in producing the project. So, kind of doing all of these illustrations, and as well as back-end support and a lot of basically all of the non-visualization UI UX. It was extremely helpful because I definitely would not have been able to put this out in 3 or 4 weeks if not for them. And then we also had Sydney Bell, who's an epidemiologist, and she was our consultant, like expert consultant. So definitely a lot of people involved, um, or I think it's a lot of people because that's like five more people than usual because it's only me usually. So, Nicholas says, really smart to do the research ahead of time. Licensing is a tricky thing. Yes, and I've really been procrastinating on it. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining today. And I will see you tentatively Monday. And if not Monday, I will see you next Wednesday. Thank you so much. And I hope you're staying cool in this August. We're having a heat wave in California. So um, hopefully you are doing well. But yeah, thank you so much for joining and see you next time. Bye bye.